Welcome everyone to Form.IO webinar. We're glad to have you here. My name is Heather Horner. I'm the COO here at Form.IO, joined by Aaron Eaton, who is our senior applications developer and the formerly known as the race car driver of Form.IO.
What am I now?
Oh, I meant like formal, not former.
Formali. Okay.
Formally, not formerly. You get a go-kart now.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we're happy to have you guys here. And we're going to be talking about the Agentic Coding Toolset. You're going to get some commentary from me to start out, just to set the context of, why we're here, what we're doing, what we're seeing. And then we're going to go into a demo from Aaron. He's going to show a tour of the coding tool set, what it can do, his experiences with it. And we'll have some interactions along the way. Please feel free to put any questions you want in the chat in the Q&A. We do have our CTO here as well, Travis Tidwell, and he's going to be answering a lot of the questions in their live. And so we're excited to have everybody here, and we look forward to your participation in any of the questions. And if along the way, if there's something you're dying to see, please put it in there. No promises we'll get to everybody, but love the participation. All right. As everyone, I'm sure, is very familiar now, we're building things differently. With AI coming in and being really a staple of a lot of our lives for building software, it's really helping a lot of teams, and we definitely are aided by it every day of putting things together, building software, and not necessarily just for the better, faster, cheaper, but really that standardization and quality and the execution of probably the most annoying parts of our jobs can be done in a way that's very efficient and effective. These tools have changed the way we've done things in the past, and what you're building on and what you're building with matters. And I would also say the problems that we face, a lot of them have not changed, right? Our customers at Form.io are in regulated industries, and the challenges that they face in reality have not changed. AI changes the way they might execute on them, but those problems are still very real, and solving them with the right tools matters. One thing that we've settled into here that I think is worth mentioning is Form.io was built for this. So, there's a lot of companies out there that have had to have a huge pivot towards AI. And when everything was the start of the AI shift, we were looking around going, okay, so what is this going to mean for us? There was some pressure, I think, at the beginning too of, can you just put a chat interface or put a widget in there where I can just build forms quickly? And we didn't do that. For some fun reference, we also have some pretty important customers to us. A lot of them, more and more, are saying we can't have any AI within the product. And that also wouldn't really follow the pattern that we've developed over time with the Formio platform, right? We give people points for integration to bring their own technologies of whatever those are, whether you want to deploy it in Azure or AWS or GCP, or you want to use some sort of authentication. We're taking a similar approach with AI of we definitely want you to be using AI and using the AI that you want, right? And then it's really this pairing between Form.io AI and development teams that tells a very cool story. The Formio architecture was really made for AI development in a very cool way, and we're seeing that more and more with the expected data patterns being the foundation that AI can really rely on and work with very easily, and that's cool. And beyond that, when people are getting into agentic workflows for runtime, having everything within self-hosted and in your control is a huge driving factor and sort of necessity for moving forward on those things. So I have a poll, and I'm going to figure out how to do this here. I'm going to start off with what is the silliest thing that you've built with AI or seen built with AI so far? I was asked this in another panel discussion that I did, and I was laughing hysterically um, with someone who had built a bunch of really great portraits of her corgi named Gary. And I was so entertained by this. And it was definitely silly and frivolous, but man, was it fun. So answer that. Love to hear from you. I'll leave that open for a little while. And just for some fun, and we will get some of those answers in there. And hopefully the echo is okay, or you're not receiving an echo. I heard that, I saw that for one person, but in the Q&A, hopefully that's not bothering everyone. Okay. With great power comes great responsibility. So with AI, you can build everything super quickly. We've all done it, or most of us in this room probably have, where we've built things out that it's unbelievable what you can build very, very quickly. In regulated industries where we operate in healthcare, financial services, government, speed is great, but there are a lot of boxes people need to check. We're dealing with HIPAA compliance and FedRAMP and SOC2, whatever that is that you maintain for you or your customers. There's a lot of answers, a lot of boxes that need to be checked that underneath the surface of all the speed and fun stuff. It's important that you have to get everything right with how you're coding things, right? So that speed is part of it, but not all of it. And when it comes to forms, we all know a form is never really just a form. What does that mean? Well, you can ask AI. Actually, you can ask AI right now to build you something in Form.IO, and it does a fairly decent job without anything, which is cool. That's because we have an open source core, and a lot of the language models are trained very well on those open source libraries. But if you ask AI to build you a form, then this is true again. Problem hasn't really changed. You can build forms. They're pretty easy. Put some fields on a page. I could do it myself in a matter of moments. But then it's like, and then what, right? It's not just about the UI. So the tip of the iceberg is that UI, those fields, what they look like, et cetera. It's pretty easy. But what it happens with enterprise situations is that the forms are everything behind that. Okay, so you've collected data and it's in your app. How's it getting somewhere? Is that secure? How do you scale this out? Do you have an expected pattern? Is one team building forms one way and another team building forms another way? And then they're collecting data in different shapes. And how does that scale over time? And so Formio has been this amazing foundation for people and the right primitives for that regulated data collection since we were founded. And it turns out this lends itself excellently to building with AI, especially at scale for teams in enterprise organizations. So what is the Agentic Coding Toolset? The Agentic Coding Toolset, from an overview, and Aaron will go more into this and what it looks like. There's an MCP server, there's a skills library, and there are then coding plugins. Agentic Coding Plugin. The plugin is essentially a beautiful, easy to install plugin that just goes into, right now we have Claude Code and we've got the other agents coming soon. I know Travis put in some new agents this week even, so we're getting those very quickly and we're excited about those as well. Turns out it also works with any of them kind of anyway, but we are looking at the, making sure that all agents that everybody is using are supported here quickly. We started with Claude Code because that's what we use internally. So what does your agent gain? Your agent gains the ability to think in Form.io. Again, because it's trained on the open source, it does a pretty good job of certain things of building forms. But with the MCP server, you're connected to your self-hosted project. This is for you all that know Form.io well. You can do it on a stage basis, so it doesn't have access to prod, for example. You could have it have access to whatever stage you want, and it's connected to be able to do everything and leverage the APIs that are shipped with the platform. Again, this architecture that we're based upon, that this little world of Form.io inception, where when you're doing things in the portal, you're building forms, you're doing everything. Every time you click something, you're leveraging an API, right? You're updating forms, you're updating the project, you're even testing out, printing a PDF. Those are all APIs that come with the Formio platform that now you have your agent authenticated in to be able to leverage on your behalf when you're in your whatever environment that you're in. And then because you have that connection, you're really in context for what you guys are actually doing and building. And a lot of people are not starting from scratch. So they're taking these coding tool sets and they're implementing this on an already existing Form.IO projects or code bases. The skills with that access also give you all the primitives and nitty gritty information and knowledge sets that the agents need to be able to effectively build very complex things in Form.io. And that is going to be iterating, of course. I also see a lot of our customers, early adopters, adding to it and building out their own skills as well to be more specific to the projects that they're building and how they want things built, which is super cool to see. So what did developers get? I was asked on LinkedIn the other day, we were talking about, we had a post on AI that our director of marketing did, and one of the people on there asked, like, so what do you get that you didn't have before? And like, what does it provide for you, really? What's new? And it's really, I think, foundationally the same types of things that you need to build things out, regardless of how you're doing it. If your team of developers are doing it or your team of agents are doing it, you need to make sure that you've got all these boxes checked. And your developers get this, all of these things, the same foundation, right? But then you have the speed of AI to execute what you're building. So the speed plus control with the things that are already in that foundation that you trust of Form.io. What gets easier? Building forms and components, for sure. Styling things. Um, Building Formio based workflows, like entire application workflows. So digital transformation of some process or workflow that you have. You've got that knowledge and that execution that's quickly able to understand things, know where to go, and how to get there from here. What I call the app to form seam. I talk a lot about how within an application where Form.io forms are embedded, there's this traversal between the app context and the form context. When you're triggering events from one or the other and want to affect behavior, there's a lot of interaction that happens there. And one of the very cool things that I've seen with people using this tool is figuring out that interaction, that relationship, because there's really kind of a line in the sand of like Form.io and then the app you're building with the context of, the agent has to have this overseeing eye about everything in the code, that interaction layer becomes really smooth to work on, debug, add to, etc., which has been very cool. And then staying in context in your app. So, development teams are building an application where before you would go to the portal or you would maybe do something in a CLI separately. This is a streamlined way to have the agent connected to your Form.io project. So wherever you're building from, if that's the terminal or the web app in Claude Code or whatever that is, you don't have to move back and forth. You can have Claude or any agent, do the things without you having to switch contexts, windows, browsers, whatever, tools. Tokens aren't free anymore. Not that they were ever like totally free, but you guys know what I mean. Costs are rising. They're gonna keep going up probably, and we don't want to stop spending. But we want, it's like we want our people internally, and I think a lot of customers where people are at are like, let's leverage this, let's do this, right? But it's where it used to be a question of like, well, we don't really have the time or the money or the resources to build X. A lot of that's not true anymore. It's easier to get things done. But I still argue that you want to be building the right things, right? AI is going to execute quicker for you, so you can do that. But spend time on the things that are really your product. On time on things that win you deals or drive revenue or, reach new audiences for the public sector. Make things more accessible for people, like things that really drive the meaningful business strategy or organizational strategy that's behind what you're doing, or the work that only you can do, right? And it's like, then leave the layer of forms and data collection to Form.io. Most of you are not trying to be in the form business, right? I don't know if I recommend it. We like it, but I don't know if I recommend it for you. But what this is cool is you can really leverage all of the speed and fun knowledge of an agent with having that foundation of Form.io behind you. Then I want to talk about a little bit about brownfield. A lot of the agentic coding is very cool for greenfield applications. The reality is a lot of us don't live there. We have existing applications and legacy systems and everything else. we're seeing in for our customers and for us as well, and all of our experience, that it's genuinely easier today to do a lot of things within existing applications. Um, Having that sort of triangulation of your agent, an app, and then Form.IO, and looking at whatever that legacy code is to replace workflows, what we're seeing, invent new ones, but you still have the control over where that can be with your agent. And so I do want to call that out because I know I've had a lot of conversations about that of like, great, you can bring something, you can build something brand new. And we'll be talking a lot about that today in the demo. But it's also a very cool tool set to be in existing applications. And it is genuinely easier and it's very cool. So with that, I want to do my second poll, which is if you could solve one thing with AI, what would that be? And I know how to do this. There we go. First day on the job. Got the poll launched. All right. One thing that you would solve with AI. I always just like having this feedback of where people's minds are at. I think it's been shifting a little bit of what people would like to do, what's pragmatic, what they're thinking. It's very cool for us, so we enjoy that. And then we're going to move on to demo time with Aaron. Aaron, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Get this going. All right. So today I'm going to be using the Claude desktop app with Claude Code. And I wanted just to show you how easy it was to get started with the plugin. So in our repo, so github.com/formio/AI, README walks you through the entire thing. For my purposes, I actually installed this through this GitHub repo as a marketplace, and that way we can also stay up to date easily, and we can see all the skills that it added to Claude Code here. And I just wanted to kind of walk through what some of these skills mean. So the two main skills that we have are the Form.IO application. So this is your, hey, I want to build an entire app. Um, Here's my prompt, go for it. And it will essentially pick all the other kind of child skills that are needed to build out that entire application. And then another orchestration skill, the Form.IO form builder, just focusing on a single form end to end. No matter what you need to do within that form, it can take care of that. And let's take a look at what was built with this tool set. So I was using the Formio application skill and the prompt. I want to build a CRM for my consulting practice. I need to keep track of my clients, the deals that I'm working on for each client, as well as the stage that it's in, and a log of activities against each deal. I have two salespeople, and they should each only see their own clients and deals. But as the owner, I want to see everything. And then I told it where to put the application code. And this represents almost everything that I gave to Claude Code as an input. And I want you to notice here what I didn't include in that prompt. I didn't say anything about Form.IO paradigms such as projects, forms, component types, resources, roles, anything like that. I used my own language to describe what I needed, and the Form.IO agent was able to understand how to translate that into its own language. So I'm going to walk through the transcript here real quick. So I gave it the prompt. It kind of put everything into its own words, and it had a couple of questions for me. What's the Formio base URL? So those who are familiar with our platform already, you know this is where the where you can access the developer portal. It also wanted the project URL, and I gave it the same thing for each answer, which I made the mistake, and it corrected me. So great. It understands what Form.io needs, what it needs to get started with Form.io. It set the project, and then it started using another skill called the Form.io Resource Planner. And so it went through my requirements and figured out how it should build all of the resources within Form.io to fulfill the prompt. And eventually, it came to a resource map where it listed out all the resources I needed, the fields that were needed, who should be able to access it, and the actions it should take when a new resource is created. So we have the user resource, which is a default resource. We have our clients, our client user. So this isn't even something I defined in the prompt. This is a resource that actually creates the relationships between the salespeople and their clients. It also created a deal resource and activity. And it defined all the fields, all the access, all the actions that were needed for all of these resources. It also identified the various roles that were needed. So, practice owner, which is, I guess, me in this case, and salesperson. It built out a table of the CRUD permissions, so create, read, update, delete permissions for each resource, as well as who is making that change on that resource. It built out a relationship diagram for me, access flow diagram, and even a narrative to say, hey, here's what's happening when certain actions are taken. So all of this with one prompt. And let's kind of take a look at what happened on the back end. So I have Form.io running locally, and I'm going to go to resources. And we see all of the resources that were created. So we have client with all of the fields here, deals, which have a client field, and it knows how to create select components with a resource data type. And activities, and it can also, here it created that same select component with resource data types, such as for the deal as well as the client. So it really does understand how to kind of hook everything together. Additionally, it knows how to implement access patterns and permissions for various users. So it set all of that up for me as well. So already this took about 5 minutes of time here, of real time, and it created all of this for me. And it told me exactly what was busy, what happened here. Again, service was busy, so not something that we really have control over. But Opus decided it was tired, so switched over to Sonnet. That's fine. It worked just fine going forward. Um, so when it creates this resource map here, it also creates the project JSON that backs every single Form.io project. It knows how to write it, knows how to read it, and it does an import for us to create all of this, all of the resources and access settings and user roles and things like that. All right, and then part of the Form.io application skill is handing off to an actual front end application skill. So in this case, we use another skill called Form.io Angular, and it knows how to properly use the Angular framework. It knows how to use our Form.io Angular library, put it all together to create a fully functioning front end application that is backed by a Form.io project. So it talks through all of its decisions here. I'm not going to get into all the nitty gritty. Basically, it's talking to itself, which is fine. But eventually, we get to, sorry, the toolbar. Let me move my toolbar here. we get to this application. Um, Needs a little front end work, but that's okay. It's a great start that we can work with. So we're logged in as a salesperson. We have our client, Acme Robotics. We can view any deals associated with that client
And each one of
as
these
well.
things that you're looking at basically is like a submission against one of the forms or resources, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. And like
And,
for each one of those, like in that list, like you've got the one. I did a lead gen app for our CEO, Gary, and I used a data source for it, and it populated like hundreds and hundreds of submissions for our lead
mhm,
gens. And it was really cool because it was just all the submissions against the like resource or form, and it did it seamlessly.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, then one thing I wanted to show here is, we do have multiple salespeople, but we don't want them, I don't know, poaching deals. So I'm going to log in as another salesperson here.
It's very competitive.
Yes. And logged in as a different salesperson, and we don't have any clients. We can't see the other person's clients. So all of this was done without really any additional input from me. This was I would consider this a one shot, and we're 90% of the way to a fully functioning CRM. So really exciting stuff here. Uh, a lot of fun to work with. I've run this a few different times with a couple different models. Works great every single time. Um, so yeah, another thing I wanted to bring up here. I'm going to I'm going to pause my share here and switch over to something. CRMs are, you know, they're an easy example. So let me stop this and start another application.
We're really fortunate to have Aaron on the team because if we have this idea for an app that we want to build, he builds it for us and it's like the most magical thing ever because and he's done some pretty cool stuff for us internally that we base the apps on Form.IO and then build them out where we're really running the business on them. And so like one of the ones that we've been building out, are you going to show the signature? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have different documents, SLAs, and whatever our documents are that we need signed as a part of the customer workflow. And so we wanted an application that's so we can have a system of record and a digital workflow for our customers to come in, leveraging a bunch of different things from Form.io to sign the contracts that we send out. So our SLA, partner agreements, whatever that is. Um, and we were like, hey, do you think you could build this? And here we are. And it's really cool because we're really running workflows that were manual and tedious before and just completely transforming them with Aaron's work.
All right. So yeah, here is our eSign Plus, I guess, signature request portal that we're building out internally. So kind of what the workflow looks like if you're a current Formio customer or maybe a soon to be one. We've sent these documents back and forth manually with signatures, but now we can do this all within a single application. Um, so we can create a new signature request. We can choose a document to send, choose a customer, and an internal approver. So I'm going to say I'm the internal approver. That's fine. We can preview the document. So this is a PDF document that is being rendered right here in the application. And continue, send primary signer. That's great. We can CC recipients and continue. We can review it one more time and submit. And so this gets sent out to uh, the the receiver. So
And then
as me as the yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say, so which part of this, what I like to see or like talk about and understand is like which part of this was AI and which part of this is Form.io.
Yeah. So the UI was AI
Mm-hmm.
setting up the resources and the I guess the conditionals around when to show certain pieces of the UI was AI, but that
Mhm.
was written into the Form.IO project
Yep.
itself using our agentic toolset. Um, so we're able to review and sign.
And then this is set up in a way, right, where the running application is submitting submissions against the like live project, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's not a whole lot needed for that, which I think also is cool, like for certain apps, when you want to add data to something, you can, like I have a workflow where I'm actually adding submissions behind the scenes to things and they populate without having to touch the app again.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to
Um,
make a lot of decisions. Like one of the things that I found that is
mm-mm.
cool is like, you don't have to know, of course we do know Form.io, but you don't have to know a lot of the like intricacies of like how Form.io works best, right? I mean, Form.io is
Yeah.
fairly easy anyway because you got the drag and drop interface and a UI to create validation or conditional logic, but it does a lot of that for you, which I think is a lot of the lift for, making these workflow forms work well. And I think the with the skills now, it just does an incredible job of like setting that up for you where you don't have to have the mental bandwidth for like all the nitty-gritty details of that kind of validation and conditional logic and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. I have an idea. I tell it what I want, and it's there.
And then these pending approval in the like of the submission, is it what is it changing? Like is it a tag or like what's it changing when you go through that next state of the workflow?
Yeah. Let's take a look at it. Actually, let me pull up the real data here. Okay. So it's changing fields field values. So like a
Okay.
status field here.
Yeah, cool. So it's like a status field, and then based on whatever that status field is, then the UI in the app is determining its behavior
Mhm.
because of that. That's cool. Got it. Awesome. One thing I would ask that comes up a lot for me is, that we have these application building tools, right? But there's also a lot of people who just want to get in there and like look at forms and build forms. Can you do that? Do you have to build an app?
No, no, not at all. Yeah, I talked about the Form.io form builder skill. So
Hmm.
this is purely interacting with kind of the developer portal itself. So
Nice.
no front end application is required.
Yeah, and I've seen too that like with the latest version, it does a good job of like picking the skills automatically. Like one thing
Mhm.
that I like to do is I like if I'm doing like lightweight example stuff when I'm doing it. So I don't need like an Angular application. It's totally fine for me to have just like an HTML page with some CSS and JavaScript making things pretty and move well, but like I don't need all of that. And so I found it to be pretty good too, where it's like it's not going to reach for the application skill. Like it's smart with that as well of like what skills and tools to pick with, whatever you're asking it, and your intent is assessed properly of what you really need, and it's not going to hit it with like Thor's hammer for a basic example.
That's right.
All right. Appreciate that. We're going to do one more little section here and then we'll conclude with some Q&A. We did have Travis join also to answer any questions live. Let's see here. One more question for you on if you want to have any more information, be contacted about any of this. If you would like more information, if you'd like to talk through a use case, we'd love to hear what you're up to and um, see what you think about everything. And maybe you just want to get a surprise from us, which is the third option there. And um, Laura, who's on here but isn't a panelist on our team, doesn't know this yet, but she's going to be sending some fun stuff out to whoever answers that. So we'd be happy to. to hear from you. So I want to say thank you. I want to tell you that this is available now at this github.com/formio/AI. That tool set is there for you. We always love requests and questions and use cases to hear about them. The more, the merrier. So let's open it up to the Q&A a little bit. Um, I've got one question about, I want to talk about this a little bit. It says, can you show an example of how the tool is used to build forms? We showed it from like the kind of crazy use case of building a whole application. It builds the forms necessary for the app. Yes, you can use it for the SaaS implementation. You just use it with the project that you have on SaaS. And you can also connect via MCP to that project. Um, I will say that it's pretty easy to get going with that. You just use the Formio form builder tool or skill. And if you just say, I want to build a form, you just describe what you want it to be. And it pumps it out. And so like, yes, we went the application route to show you that, our point of that is to say a lot of times these forms end up being the scaffolding of digital workflows and applications. So we don't want it to be so reductive to say that it's just, a form builder, because of course we're building forms, but we're also building a lot more than that. And so I would encourage you to try it out or write into us at any time, support@Form.IO if you have any questions about how you can get going. And we do that. So thank you for that. And then I would say for assessing any kind of performance of forms, I would say absolutely. I think that's one of the things that, like debugging and looking at things, it has to do with this traversal between your application and your forms and everything. And you'll have to give it some information, but we've seen some pretty good stuff there too of however you want to, look into those types of things. Would AI fix or change an existing form? Yes, really well. It's super fun. You're connected to your project. So you can um, hook up into the project and say, what forms do I have in here? Or say, can you find my insurance premium form and add some sections to it, or whatever that is. And so I do that all the time for demos that I build, and that's a self-hosted remote environment on our own test environments, and which would mimic a customer environment like you guys have. And so just log in there, and regardless of the form, I can make changes. And again, I tend to do that in a non-production stage. Don't test in prod. I have to tell you that. Don't test in prod. And then you can promote those as needed after you go through that software development lifecycle as usual. All right, so that looks like we've gotten a lot of the questions. And then we got one more. Are there instructions anywhere on how the AI tools can be accessed via the developer portal? So this is not, it technically is not in the portal app. So you'll go to the GitHub repo. That'll have all the instructions you need. So one of our intentional things with this is that you're not having to go to the portal to access it. It's not going to have like a necessity for that. So what we've heard is a lot of developers are starting wherever they're building their application, or they're in Claude Code, or they're in their IDE, whatever. And so we want to make sure that you're able to access it from there. Later on, we may have some points of integration for sort of bring your own AI, and we'll see what that looks like. But for now, all the instructions for the AI tools are in that GitHub repo. They're also on help.form.io. There's some information, but this GitHub repo is going to give you everything you need to get started with that. All righty. Thank you, everyone, for your participation today and for coming to our webinar. Um, and we are super excited to hear any results that you guys have, whatever you're building. Please tell us. We want to know all of it, the good, the bad, the weird. Tell us everything that you have to share. Um, and we really appreciate the time today. Thank you so much. And one thing I will leave you with is that I'm going to do my favorite answer for the polls. So the weirdest thing that you saw with AI, built with AI, Writing staff appreciation poems that are attached to an automated
Ooh.
system email. That's a good one. I like that one. And then what would you solve with AI? Can't go wrong with this. Cancer. I would love that. There's some cool stuff happening in medical research, and I just love that one. So thanks for participating. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.
I